Hello, my name's Claire Henderson. I'm Director of Commissioning and Integration for Islington CCG. The purpose of this short film is to give partners a greater understanding of primary and community estate in Islington and some of the challenges we face as we move towards developing more integrated services. The film shows two events. The first one was a workshop that we held in November where we brought together partners from Primary Care, Whittington Health, Camden Islington Foundation Trust and the local authority to talk about the development of primary and community services. The second discussion is a panel of people with an interest in primary and community estate, and that discusses some of the key themes that came up during the workshop. So I hope you enjoy the film. Nicola, what do you think are some of the key challenges of community estate, and in particular primary care estate, when we're thinking about estate as enablers of sort of delivery of integrated care?
Thank you, Claire. So I think one of the issues is that CCG does not own any estate. It is owned by a variety of organisations, both private sector, GPs, 3PDs and other organisations. And traditionally, what's happened is GP services have been delivered out of older, smaller buildings. Yeah. And with the change in the way that services are moving, we need to invest in a different style of estate in order to be able to support and enable a different clinical models to be worked and delivered alongside core primary care. And what that means is that we need to be better at finding investment opportunities and investment funding in order to be able to invest and support those important services as they transition and as they evolve.
Great, thank you. John, as a local GP, what do you think we need by way of estate if we're going to deliver that more integrated care model in a way that meets the needs of our local residents?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It's one that I think lots of places across the country are struggling and battling with. We have an ambitious NHS long-term plan which envisages truly integrated community healthcare for our patients and for our residents. I think, as you were describing, Nicola, the model of general practice in primary care estates that exists at the minute is built up over years, and we are dealing with something which is not going to change overnight, but needs to evolve as we progress forward. We talk a lot within primary care about how we build a model where clinicians and practitioners and health and social care can all work together, caring for the people that we serve. I think our transition into a world of primary care networks where groups of providers, not just GPs, but groups of people who work within primary care, are trying to understand and really deliver services to meet the health needs of their population. I think that will really inform how we need our estates to look. We need to remember though that estates we're not designing for today, tomorrow, we're designing for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I've worked in a lot of GP surgeries, I'm a salaried GP, I don't own my own premises, and you're quite right to identify that one of the real conundrums that we face is that a lot of GPs own their own buildings and own their own premises, and how we support local GPs to provide services locally for their patients and also deliver services across a place, across a locality that work for their residents. I mean, that's the conundrum we're facing.
Yeah, right. Thank you. So turning to you, Alison, and see from a community services perspective, what do you think is needed from our estate in order to provide these integrated services and wrapping around the PCNs as John was talking about?
Absolutely, and I think, much like GP practice, it's really important that the buildings support the clinical model going forward. We've come from an NHS which has been very much centred around an acute model and buildings that have facilitated that. And now we need to move towards a place where we will have fewer buildings, but where we can work as a multidisciplinary team and that we can really support that model going forward. We have numerous buildings across Islington, both for the council and the health. Whittington Health. Of course, we don't own all of those, and we lease them, etc. And what we're doing is we're cross-charging each other, you know, using the same public money to charge each other for that. And we need to move to a situation where, going forward, you know, the buildings that we build are for our residents, and that we can do that together much better.
Great, thank you. So Sarah, can you tell us a bit about what's currently going on to develop Islington Estate and with our partners?
Yeah, of course. I mean, one of the first things probably it's worth saying is that we have a particular challenge in Islington in that it is a very highly populated borough with a very small land mass, and therefore land is extremely hard to come by and extremely expensive, and that I think is a very particular challenge in Islington. As a result of that, I think there's a number of things that are going on at the moment to try and meet that challenge. The first is that Whittington Health owns a lot of estate and runs a lot of estate, and is at the moment doing a large master planning exercise around not just with the hospital but with all the community estate, and looking at how that can be developed differently. What do we need in order for our estate to be fit for purpose? And looking at different levels of estate, what needs to be delivered locally, what needs to be delivered on a borough basis because the services are specialist, and what could be delivered at the most appropriate level to ensure that we have a combination of locally accessible services, but that are also that provide residents with a range of services at the same place at one time.
Okay, thank you. So, and that's been a really interesting sort of discussion about, you know, the issues that I suppose we're facing. So I guess just asking all of the panel, what do you think some of the next steps are? Because I know there's lots of opportunity. You know, we have challenges, some of which we've talked about, but there is real opportunity as well in Islington and across central London to sort of galvanise and really move forward. So, Nicola, do you have any?
Yeah, just a couple of observations. We are actually quite good at delivering, making stuff happen on the ground, and there's some really good projects that are underway both in Islington and generally. I think we need to move those through to really deliver what the outcomes are that they have the potential to do, but also give them a bit more visibility. So acknowledge the fact that there are challenges, but we are succeeding. We're making some really important estate investments work, and those deliver really useful and key clinical outcomes, and make sure we give that visibility. Secondly, it's about prioritising which are our most important next wave of projects, making sure we've got the right partners, the right leadership, and that we're clear that they also need to follow through to deliver it. And then the third piece I would say is estate investment is expensive. It is expensive both in terms of enabling development, getting the right teams in place. As Sarah said, this site and Islington is a very complex urban environment. And unlike boroughs that perhaps have more green or brown land, brownfield land, then we need to work hard and imaginatively and creatively in creating those opportunities for the next wave of projects. So there's both working together to do that, and as Sarah said, using the left and the local estates forums as that place where that local conversation takes place, working very clearly and strongly with both GP and community service providers and leaders in doing that to ensure that they have strong clinical and community leadership. And then the important point is securing some of the government money that is potentially coming over the horizon, so that as NCL we can show that we have the right partners, we have the right language, we have the right accountability, and we have really strong, compelling projects that will benefit from that funding, and that we can deliver successes in the short to medium term. The other addition I would make is we need to be able to show that we are both releasing value, which is challenging, but using that value to invest back into our projects. So that enables us to move surplus assets that are no longer fit for purpose into that new infrastructure model going forward, where we might wrap estate and digital together in terms of new models of care.
Absolutely. I mean, I got quite excited there listening to that, and you're right. We have to be optimistic about what the future holds. I mean, we're moving into the new 20s of the new century. We need to be delivering healthcare which is fit for purpose for now, not relying on primary care estates that were mainly built in the 1980s. We are far from that. And we have a job as clinical leaders and as leaders of health and social care to be inspirational with what we want to achieve. Primary care at the minute delivers over 1 million appointments every year within Islington. The majority of people, 84% of people in the GP patient survey, said their experience of care was good or very good. We're not terrible. We just need to imagine something which is fit for purpose going forward to the future. When you ask futurists or people who design buildings what premises look like, people imagine open spaces where you can have conversations about well-being, where there is social provision and interaction that happens not with medical practitioners, but as a place where people can come to meet their health and well-being needs. And that idea, to me, that makes sense. I think the idea, and when you ask GPs, we know that there are some people who really value seeing their own doctor and their own team, and there are other people who are prepared to travel for care which is more integrated and providing a better range of services around that one individual person. And I got quite fired up there listening to you. I thought that was exactly what we're hoping for. There are, of course, opportunities that will come up. I'm looking at the potential release of government money. I'm looking at local libraries. I know that the clinical directors of primary care networks are really starting to think imaginatively about how they use all of the available assets. I think there's a real focus in the NHS long-term plan around mental health in children and young people, and we really need to think about how we use the buildings which are physically available, because in Islington, as you say, we're probably not going to get lots of new buildings springing up. We need to repurpose and reuse and revitalise the assets that we have.
And also it's really important that whatever we do, that we engage with our residents and the public, because and every step of the way, Whittington Health has in the past not quite got that right, but we're just about to launch our new estate strategy in the new year, and the key bit of that strategy was to really engage with all the stakeholders, but particularly the residents, so they feel that they own these buildings, and they feel that they're having that direction, and they really understand and want these buildings to be part of their lives.
John, you mentioned mental health there, and I think that our conversations with the Camden Islington Foundation Trust, SIFT, are very, very fruitful at the moment. They are about to completely redevelop a premises at Lowry Road in Islington, and I think that they are looking to work with health and council partners really as to how we, and voluntary sector, absolutely, yes, and the community really widely, as to what services should be in that building and what mental health services should be in other places, and in primary care, in other community facilities.
Thanks for watching our film. I hope we showed how working in partnership is helping to transform our local authority.